Hello.
Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a weekly podcast where Ivanka, Majic and myself work out what we think about everything in the known universe. This is episode 196, if you can Adam and Eve it. My name is Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Majic.
Ivanka Majic is here in Croatia. I am here in London. West London, but it's London. And I live near Portobello Road. That's famous.
Paddington Bear used to go and visit his friend in Portobello Road, didn't he?
A lot of in Paddington 2, and maybe in Paddington 1 as well, a lot of that is quite near to where I live. Those lovely multicoloured houses, Notting Hill. So there you go. This week we're going to talk about network effects in terms of people, attention, internet,
attention.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Loads of things.
Like doing something, ripples, doing some positive
exactly.
things, ripples of kindness. That's a network effect.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
As opposed to you sort of get out what you put in, the sort of you get out compound interest on what you put in, I suppose, is the difference. What can you do that will grow in a networky way, and what will just, you'll put some energy in and it will sort of fall to the bottom of the ocean. What is the difference between those two dynamics? So that's what we're going to talk about. So strap in and get on board. This is a podcast now. Oh, it catches me out, that transition. It catches me out. We stream this live on Twitch every Friday at some time between 9 and 10 a.m. on UK time. And that's what we're doing. We're doing it on video. We're doing it in one take. And how do we start this section? I say, how are you doing, Ivanka? How's it going? Well, it's been 2 weeks since... Has it been 2 or 3 weeks?
It's been ages.
It's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Full 2 weeks, I think, we've had off. And we're having next week off as well.
Oh, God.
So I'm going on holiday.
Oh,
you
God.
did. Normally you start this section by going, Ivanka, what is the best thing that's happened to you this
week? What is the best thing? Well, what's the best thing that's happened to you in the last 3 weeks?
My child turned 7.
Oh.
I mean, it didn't really happen to me, but it did happen to me. It's very exciting.
Something you had to deal with.
She had a birthday party for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah.
So she was very pleased, and we did it despite a storm. So it was fun. It was fun. She gave us 10 out of 10 for delivery for a birthday party. Excellent. And so that was all good. The main audience was satisfied with the. I made cupcakes and pink icing covered cake and everything. I did everything, all the things. So I was just quite pleased with myself. It was a team effort. We hosted. We played musical chairs. We played musical statues. We had a lucky dip prize bucket. Man, I was on it. Taught introduced Pass the Parcel to Croatian children.
Oh.
Blew their little minds, it did.
Did they understand it, or did they keep trying to open it?
How many layers are there going to be? I was like, oh, we're going to keep playing.
That's the game.
So, yeah. So we had a lot of fun. A bit of cross-cultural idea pollination or something like that. So yeah, that was good. On the negative side, there is that I'm going. I'm going to say one more positive thing though, because we haven't seen each other for a couple of weeks. Yeah. We're on a holiday. I am going on a holiday, and I'm not taking a laptop or anything or any means of logging in.
Some people would say that is the definition of a holiday, not taking a laptop. But yeah, good. I'm glad you're disconnecting.
I'm very excited. I'm disconnecting. No, I'm going to have to I'm going without my family as well. So the newly minted 7-year-old is not impressed with this decision.
No.
Mummy, why are you going away without us? It's because I am. Because I need to.
And did you say you were going on a skiing?
I'm going on my ski goddess holiday, which long-time listeners will remember.
May remember from the past.
43. I don't know what episode we can't mention it, but yeah. So yes, I'm going back to hang out with the ski goddesses, and I'm going by train overnight train, Zagreb,
excellent.
Zurich.
Excellent.
Very excited. No planes will be used in the design of this holiday.
How long is that? How much was it expensive, or was it okay?
No, it really
give us a price. Give us the price tag for a train from where you are to.
So Zagreb, Zurich direct. I've got to get to Zagreb, so I'm going to do that by coach bus, which is about 12 quid.
Nice.
I'm going to then get on an overnight train, which is literally 6:30 in the evening till 10 o'clock the next morning. And it's costing me £60.
Okay, nice. And that's
I get a bed.
Carriage. You get a bed.
I get a bed.
Do you share a room?
It's a two-shed. Yeah, share a room.
Weirdo.
I don't know. Maybe there'll be a weirdo. I don't know. I'll let you know. On the way back, see, the only thing that's fallen slightly flat here is that you cannot book online an international train ticket out of Croatia.
Oh.
So I had to go into a ticket office, and I just asked a woman for a bed, and I asked if there was a single occupancy one, and she said no. So she got me a shared one, and that was all. But then when I was booking my Switzerland to Zagreb, she couldn't book the return fare straight away because the computer said no. So I booked it online, and I was able to select a women's only shared. So I don't know.
A female weirdo.
I don't know.
So you might be in a room with a male weirdo, though. That's. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure. Sorry, I don't know why I've gravitated towards that aspect.
We'll see.
Well, that's pretty good. You can just sleep with one eye open. It'll be fine.
That'll work. Anyway, I shall report back on my adventures when I get back, and then I've got to cross Switzerland. So I'm going to get from Zurich to a little station that I don't know how to pronounce, which is helpful. But apparently Swiss trains, I've downloaded the app already. It's like, the Oyster card works in London, or used to, where you can just travel around all day, and at the end of the day, what gives you the cheapest ticket. Swiss trains let you do that around Switzerland.
Nice.
So I've installed that app. I've given it my card details, so have QR code. I'm made out of COVID codes, train ticket QR code, all the QR code.
Does it come up on the Apple app? Oh yeah. I'm
not appling.
You're not appling, are you? Masochist. No. Cool. Well, it's just for me to go to see my family in Nottingham is maybe not twice that, but
it's not cheap.
Like a 2-hour train journey in the UK, it can be 60 to 80 quid these days, and it's like.
Yeah, I think the Zurich to it's near enough. The Châtel is could be up to €90.
I mean, it's Switzerland then, so it's probably going to get expensive. So,
but the train should be on time and clean. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so yes, it should be. How are you? What's the best thing that's happened to you in the last 2 weeks, Michael?
I made thousands of pounds. I made thousands of pounds myself with my, I don't know, just by talking. Well, I made a thing, but it was talking to people, and I don't know. I've been hacking away at this stuff, and I pivoted back in June after 2 years of work on something, and then I decided, right, let's focus on the camera app that people actually want instead of the mood tracking app that nobody wants in the whole world, and I'm not going to be able to force them to because it's against the grain of human nature, apparently. It's just me that wants to do that and no one else. So I pivoted, I started talking to people, and it was scary, like writing those first emails where I asked people if they'd talk to me was a really scary thing to do, and I had to really make it into a game for myself to get through it. But as a result of, I talked to one person, I talked to another person, they sort of got me into one thing. They suggested a feature. I talked to a school teacher, and he said, I like to pause it by kind of turning off the screen. I thought, what if I had a pause button to my camera app and let you draw on it? That would be kind of cool for teaching. So, talking to that guy, I did that. Then I'm looking for some way of getting people that aren't using my app to talk to. And I tried 3 or 4 different things. And then in January, I said, right, no more. Oh, and I also interviewed someone who sort of did stuff in churches. And then Sharon's dad said, why don't you interview someone from the Jewish community next? And I was like, well, if someone contacts me, and then I'll try. And then I kind of came up with a new thing in January, and I put that out, and then I had a little form that asked people about themselves, and sure enough, a rabbi said, "Hey, I'm using this thing," Rabbi David, and he jumped on, and so I got on a call with him, and he told me about this other community, and he started sharing what I sold him my app directly. I said, it's the first time I've ever told someone about it, and they've downloaded it and gone, "Wow, this is cool." It's the first time I've seen their face. He was sharing it with people, and then the organizer of this big Office Hours Global, which I will link to in the description because it's a gold mine of stuff. Office Hours Global, they sort of like the delay calculator, then they like the Shoot app, and then the organizer of that has a big Mac podcast, and he made it his recommendation of the week. And so that resulted in the biggest spike of sales that I've ever seen in 1 week, like twice. That, remember when it was peak COVID and I was like, I don't know what's going on, it's so many, and I hadn't done anything. This time I did each step, and it was like twice as much as I've ever made in a week from my app sales. And actually, like, almost like a couple of those days were probably the most money I've ever made in a day. And I did this all whilst on holiday in Porto. So that's the dream, isn't it?
That is the dream.
Like,
yes.
I'm not selling my time. I've got a thing, and even when I'm away, it can be making loads of money. And even though, that's a spike, and this week was still better than the week before that week. So I've been pushing it up anyway, but it's given me that A, B, C, D, E, F, G mental model that this can work. I can do this. So after like nearly 3 years of banging my head against it, I think I've had a win, and it was a good win. So I'm very pleased about that.
Very, very good. Well done. Congratulations on being brave and telling people about your product.
It was hard. It was hard to say, like, do you want to talk to me to start with? And now I'm trying to do that every day. Now almost I've got too many email addresses coming in. It's like, and I just wrote a blog post saying I reply personally to each email. Now I'm sort of committed to that. So it's like, I've got like 30. Came back from holiday, I had like 30 emails to write to people. And now I've got another 20 in my backlog that I haven't got to yet, and another 60 of another type that I need to deal with. So, another 60 potential Rabbi Davids right there.
Yeah.
So,
sounds like a nice problem to have, though. Yes, nice new problem to have.
Exactly.
Well done.
So yeah, and that's kind of part of the reason for this network effects conversation that we will get into after a little wee break. There's video footage of a peacock, and I caught it opening up. Remembering when it went badly in the past. Oops, wrong button. Did you see that, Ivanka? I was like, here's some female peacocks. I bet there's a male skulking around. Sure enough, there was. And I watched him kind of creeping. And I was like, I'm going to get this on camera. Pointed my camera. Sure enough, caught the peacock opening up its tails. So, I'm a wildlife photographer now as well.
You are. On top of everything else.
Right, network effects. If you want to see that video, viewers, listeners, you have to do Patreon. So, sorry. Or you have to turn up on Twitch. One way or another, it's going to be a huge sacrifice of either $1 or 20 minutes, half an hour of your time, which I know is hard to come by. Network effects. What's the best network effect you've had? I don't know.
How do we start this conversation?
Well, the way I'm going to start it is saying what I have realised, what is really interesting in terms of the contrast I'm seeing between, and this was always the goal. This was how I've always wanted it to be. Like, I make something and then it scales and goes out to loads more people than I could ever do if I did it one at a time, sort of thing. So the difference between selling your time to someone who will reliably, hopefully, pay you for that time but keep all of the results of it, versus putting loads of energy into something of your own so that when it does kind of hit that stride of, sort of find its way through a network and take off, that you get to keep that instead of the CEO getting to keep it. But really, like, I was thinking in terms of compound interest, compounding, the way that me writing another feature for an app is not it's sort of a predictable return. I get a new feature. Whereas if I talk to people, and I don't allow myself to write a new feature for the app, and if I talk to new people, then that can compound in a way that writing the thing can't, even though maybe I need the feature to talk to the person to result in the compounding thing. Because the other thing I didn't mention was the person that got excited about the drawing feature that I added when I talked to the teacher. So it was kind of like traced through that. So, but like, once you've got something to talk about, I think there is that potential for it to, once you talk to one person, they tell you about the next person, or they tell their friends, and they tell their friends, and you get this it can grow in a way that just kind of like either that predictable return of selling time or just working on behind the scenes can't. I think, is there a clear point in there? I don't know.
I think we've definitely talked about this similar sort of things on the podcast before, but there's an aversion, I think, people who make things often have to marketing and sales and those kind of conversations. And there's this, and that's what you're talking about, having a thing that people want and then letting them know it exists is not a bad activity. You're not doing anything vacuous or boring or made up. There's a difference, I think, between, like, there's a kind of like, I've got something people will find really useful, I need to let them know it exists, and then more and more people can find out about it. And then there's the sort of how much harder it is. Let's say one of the things we talked about when we started this podcast, it was like, the world's a bit messed up, don't know what to do about it, have no concrete action, let's start talking about it and see what comes of that. And we do have, people do listen to the conversation, maybe somebody else has a pause before they make a decision on something, or they think about values in a different way, whatever that we've had. But there's this sort of the difference between having something people need and want, sort of network effect to grow, and then you wanting to change, having something, or you want people to do something that they don't necessarily want to do, and that's a much more difficult network effect. But I don't think you can, like, but the starting point is the same, is having something to talk about that is of interest, and not, I don't know, well, because we were going to talk about how do you talk. I don't know if I've made a point either. No. But it's like this, the solar panel thing on my house. I want the solar panels because I want to make clean energy, but I also want people to ask me about my solar panels. And who knows what kind of further effect I can have with having something so visible. But without the network, we are really nothing.
It sort of does remind me that virality is not a measure of quality in this world, and unfortunately, like, I've kind of learned that just because you want something to spread, if it doesn't have that weird quality of spreadability, then you just can't really force it. I suppose that the only way you could sort of be persistent in talking to more and more and more different kinds of people about it, and finding out what they want from it, and maybe adapting it a little bit, or just keep talking to so many people until you find the right person that it resonates with. And there are so many people in the world, and it's easy to forget that there's loads of people in the world. And but I guess that's that. Well, but then that's your when you talk about solar panels, you're talking about a completely different sort of ecosystem to the one that the sort of internet ecosystem is very different to the local village ecosystem. And
I think it's still very similar, but you've got to do, like, the coming into a new, we talked about how do you make friends in a new community, and like going to a cafe at the same time every day, and just having this, like, point of you've got nothing else in common, but you all go for coffee at exactly the same time of day to the same cafe, so it's enough to start some nodding. There are internet nods as well. Like, you can find, I think, a lot of that building the network on the internet grows from the same sort of things. You just, because maybe it's the fact that it's recorded and visible when you post stuff and it's there, that you are more reluctant to reach out to people, just using that horrible phrase of I don't know. I'm
like, yeah, and it's like that, and definitely there is a difference between posting and sending an email and getting on a call with someone and just saying something to them, and that's definitely how this all happened. The thing that I'm thinking about. I will say we did try the whole going to the same place every week,
yeah,
coffee, but it didn't really work in London, unfortunately. So I think it is. But yeah, like it's funny. Yeah, internet is weird anyway, because I've been sort of doing some good. I've been sort of. Another thing that's been happening is I've been writing these blog posts about my business kind of stuff, and there's a community called Indie Hackers, and like while I was away, a couple of the admins have started asking me to write full posts about, like, to flesh out comments that I've made on other people's posts, and they've asked me to do like 4 already, like in 2 weeks. So it's kind of like every day I'm writing content for this website now, but it's weird. I mean, the only thing I wanted to say was, like, I did a post that has had quite a lot of engagement yesterday, and now I start getting people emailing me, but they all, someone emailed me, I really enjoyed your post on spreading things on Reddit yesterday. Would you upvote my I forget what it's called. Oh my god! Would you do me a favour? Essentially, it's like, what? But I suppose that's sort of like what that's like the Olu thing. Like when you know someone else, you think that they know you and that you're friends. So maybe that's what that is. But so the head nod, like if you're talking and being in public, it's a different thing to I don't know, sending personal things. So but you sort of,
I mean,
yeah. You'd think that the bigger your potential audience is, it's a podcast, therefore anyone can download it in the world, that the more that would have a chance of spreading. But it's weird how much those one-to-one conversations are, like, just infinitely more effective.
Yeah, but I think there is science around this in terms of, like, reciprocity and things. It's like if it's personal, you've invested so much more time. Like you've eyeballed somebody, you've given them you've responded to them personally. Yeah. I think we're grateful for the time people give us. I know I am. But and then it's a much more binding exchange, a bit more of a binding contract. Just because I downloaded your thing and had a listen, I'm not obliged to listen to the end. I'm not obliged to stay to the end. I think it's that sort of, and I watched this talk once years, I think South by Southwest, darling, when I was there one time, and this guy spoke about, I've definitely said this before, this whole, like, when you do somebody a favor or then follow up with, literally, I know you will do the same thing for me when I ask in the future. So it's like a kind of like, do you realize this, a kind of a
I will hold you to this.
I will hold to this. But I mean, he was a bit American. His wording was a bit bearish. But but there is that sort of, like, unwritten, I've done something nice for you. You're obliged to listen to my thing.
But it's also a reason that people don't want to accept things as well. I find quite often it's quite hard to get certain people to, and I think it's why people can be distrustful of attempts at generosity sometimes. I was going to say, I went on Office. I asked a question on Office Hours Global yesterday where they were talking about concerts and streaming concerts online and things, and I asked the question, like, how do you make sure you're not going to be playing to an empty room? And one of the pieces of advice was, like, call people, like, telephone people. And I realized, the people that show up to my stuff are people I talked to last week. Invariably, it's never, if it's someone I haven't seen, if it's someone I spoke to in the last few days, they're probably going to turn up to the gig. And not many other people. So that's another, like, I think to what you're saying, that kind of giving them your time, that sort of that direct communication.
I think if you're organising an event and you want everybody who said yes to show up, like phoning them all is one way to do it. It's like, hello, you're coming, like, because at least they're going to feel bad if they don't show up because you actually took the time to message them personally or phone them personally. I think it's definitely so there is that sort of, but then I think that's kind of a transactional way of thinking about it.
And it's not that at all. It's like you're front of mind. You're like, oh, that's my friend. I don't know what it is that's the mechanism. I often feel quite obligated, actually, in a situation like that. I'll be like,
of course,
I think I just saw you and you asked me directly, and like you really do feel obligated if someone sort of actually directly asked you about it. But it's scary to ask as well. So, but this isn't really a network effect. Shall we? Break and try and get onto the topic.
Back on topic. yeah.
Ivanka, the pains of the live podcast recording, receiving deliveries in the middle of it.
Yeah, a delivery that I had no expectation that was being delivered. Anyway,
isn't it annoying when someone delivers something too early and you were like, oh, I'll get that on Saturday, and then like, oh, we're going to deliver it on Thursday. We're like, I'm not in on Thursday. That's not it. Don't be early. That's not better than being late. Okay, network effects. There's that
effect.
Virality quotient, isn't there? Like, it has to be if each person that sees it shares it with an average of more than 1.01 people, then it will explode. And if they share it with half a person, it will just die straight away. And that's how compounding works, innit?
Yeah. And how COVID spreads.
How COVID spreads, exactly. Network effects of COVID.
the negative, but I think there's a lot of the thing that I think I am more painfully aware, maybe, and perhaps you are too, because you're trying to promote something of your own, or often in, like, even working at Ubuntu, you wanted people to hear about Ubuntu, you have projects that you want people to engage with, like. Understanding, I have much more respect for other people trying to do the same thing. I am more likely, I think, to like and share something than some of my other friends. I'm like, can you not see that your friend here is trying to launch something into the world? How hard is it to just like it and share it? You don't even have to comment. And it's that kind of like, or, going to your friend's cafe and writing them a review, or, following them on Instagram, whatever it is that they need as sort of visible support. Like not using the power that you do have is a bit frustrating to me, so I think that sort of social proof that comes from I think that is network effect. That kind of
social proof, and they tell you to put testimonials and people as soon as you can in your marketing, because like people really weight another person's opinion above certainly what you're saying about it as the person that made it, and that wants to spread it. So the sooner you can get people talking about it, the better. But it is a shame that you can't really force it. You can't force network effects. You're sort of at the mercy of it, and that's the fear of it, really. It's sort of the unpredictability of, if I talk to this person, I have no idea what's going to happen as a result. But something good might happen, something bad, nothing will probably happen, but a lot more is going to happen if you speak to another person who has an inner life and experience and talks to other people and walks around the world, than if you add another thing into your the thing you're making. I think sometimes
but I think that, it is why PR, marketing and sales are jobs and professions. Like, they're people whose job it is to just go and have coffees with people endlessly,
well,
phone them up, be the kind of person, be the reminder, be the now. I mean, and I think I've learned a lot from hanging out with Nick Harvey, the person I married, who's like, things like trying to get the beach cleans on a simple level, just going for coffees with people, like taking the opportunity, posting something, following up on a comment. I mean, I really am not the best. Like you've deliberately taken time out of your programming activities. You've gone, right, I've got to change hats, and you're giving it your full attention, and it is paying dividends, and it is being worth it for a whole variety of reasons. But it takes time.
It takes
to give
time.
People valuable attention.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can have any change in the world or affect any change in the world if you don't do it.
Yeah, like you don't really get to just broadcast. You don't really get to just. You have to have an interaction for it to stick.
I think it's Have I?
Has this podcast had any network effects? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I know that, for example, between the two of us, it has had, and we're like.
I think there's an internal resonances and consequences to being forced to talk about, environment.
And I think we've
bloody time.
We've had effect on each other. Michael wouldn't like it if I did that, or Ivanka wouldn't like it if I did that. And I like to think we've had a few more, had an effect on a few other people in that regard. But has it become a viral success? No.
No. I mean, we've had let's see, 34,569 downloads. That's not nothing.
Wow, that's not nothing. No.
So, but it's not.
Maybe we should be asking the people listening if this podcast has had a network effect of any description.
I mean, if it's, I would love to hear if this has affected listeners. hello@grandpodcast.com. Like if this has had any kind of effect, network or not. It's one of those ones that it's like you don't even particularly want to share it.
No, I'm terrible. Who wants to listen to me and Michael have the chat? I mean, I want to have the chat, and I enjoy listening to it afterwards because it makes me think things through again. My husband listens to it when he's out mountain bike. I know we have a core of friends and people who listen to it, but no, I think one of the things I will say, and now you reminded me a minute ago, was this thing about the network. There's a sort of what I think is the positive network effect I want to see in the world, and there's a negative effect, and there is definitely something that I observe where people spreading. And maybe this is not true, but it's my perception that people spreading nonsense seem to be less reluctant to do so than people who want to affect some sort of good in the world. They're a bit more shy about it and a bit more retiring and are less likely to sort of go, hey, I don't know, thinking about this war the Russian attack on Ukraine, the whole world, much of the world, much of Europe, apart from Serbia and Belarus, have openly said that, have come out against it and condemned it. Even Switzerland hasn't stayed neutral for the first time in history. They've said they're going to block the banks. so you know what I mean? It's like that is a network effect, and that is a positive network effect. And I'd like to see more positive network effects in the world that condemn bad behavior, that condemn things that are bad for all of us. So, like, it's kind of it doesn't really make any sense, but, rather than having an anti-mask protest, wouldn't it be cool to be having, though you cannot have, like, by there, it's sort of like, don't make any sense to go out and protest together about wearing, pro wearing masks, because you'd be like, I don't know, creating a bad COVID situation. But do you know what I mean? It's like, let's be louder. Let's not be ashamed of saying what we stand for.
It takes less energy. It takes less effort to sort of react emotionally and share something that superficially sort of agrees with your beliefs and seems to say something that inside is making you angry, and share it. But it's always going to be easier to share poison, I think, than it is to share something that's thought through and maybe takes a little bit more to understand. But something I think is definitely important. There's that sort of what goes around comes around. There is that don't gossip and shit talk people if you can, like, especially not on a podcast, especially not like in somewhere that it's going to stick forever. It's just there's those low level things that someone can see something, you can say something, you can follow someone. I don't know what it is, but it just nudges people sort of the wrong way and it sort of makes everything a little bit worse, I think. And so the weird thing about network effects is it's really a tipping point. It's like a little bit up, a little bit down, just compounds and compounds over time. So you don't have to do a lot to have a positive effect. You just have to not just go up a little bit instead of down a bit. And if everyone did that, then the world would be a much better place. But I think the way things work makes it a lot easier to say something too quickly, and then get into some emotional dispute and then double down on it from defensiveness, double down on it for whatever reason, and then just sort of compound that negativity. It's sort of an effect of how easy it is to spread something now. And that's something that we do have, this unprecedented level of possible network effects now, that you don't have to we don't have to sort of see someone in real life after walking a donkey to the next town. We can in an instant. I
think it's we had this conversation the other day. I think it's about the way the world is getting involved, or people in the world are getting involved with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Things like the calling for writing, to combat the Russian TV and radio propaganda, people writing reviews for restaurants in Moscow and St. Petersburg, but talking about the war in the review. So giving the restaurant 5 stars. I think Google and what have you taking them down because they are false reviews. But there are these channels now. Airbnb are allowing you to make a booking for an Airbnb in Ukraine that you're not going to take, so that the person who would still get the income gets the money. There are so many more tools available. Google Pay is blocked in Russia now, so people can't go on the tube. We have so much more connected energy if we would use it. And it's like, and so this kind of idea, it's like if the people in power, it's too late, they've educated the proletariat now. We've got tools.
Yes, too late. Well, they're taking out tanks, aren't they? They're like disabling tanks. People are getting they're learning how to do it, and they're taking them out on the streets, just normal people, because that information is available now. So try that 50 years ago.
I think, it's like, so like, I think, but I think what we can't forget is, so there's all these tools for network effect, but I still think we need to use them in a human way.
Well, I think the fact is they're getting used in a human way, and it is easy to focus on, it's easy to get caught up in the negative ways in which this is used. And I think, like, I sort of see this Ukraine invasion as an extension of everything else that has been happening. It's quite easy to see that sort of Russian propaganda machine and that Russian misinformation machine kind of like being a way to weaken the rest of the world through this sort of, all this horrible stuff that's been happening. But ultimately, I kind of come back to what that Commons person, that Wikipedia person said, like, humans are generally, they want to be nice to each other, and we're seeing so many creative ways that that's happening as we sort of get the first, this kind of an invasion. We don't see a lot of, I don't want to make any general statements about war, but like, it's definitely a new environment for that to happen, and we're seeing all these crazy things happening that were never possible before, and we're seeing that human nature is, by and large, invested in positive outcomes and not being selfish. So
I think so.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's just bang. Thanks for listening. If you like the podcast, go to grandpodcast.com. Oh, I was going to use that last segment to say we've got a new podcast. It came out this week. It's called Can You See My Screen? It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's available on YouTube. You can watch videos. Go to canyousseemyscreenpodcast.com. We started with a sort of general conversation about sort of online marketing and meeting. Well, it's what is it? It's a podcast dedicated to running better workshops, training, and meetings online. So we're talking about everything that Ivanka's learned doing training and workshops and things, and everything I've learned from doing live streaming and things, and everything we both learned from years of remote working and webcams and microphones and podcasting and all these different things, and sort of packaging it up in a way that hopefully you can find something that will help you in your, I guess, professional life, to sort of navigate this new environment of teleconferencing and video phones. So that's canyousseemyscreenpodcast.com. And yeah, so we've got one which is, the second episode is me kind of going, how do you do it? Use a research interview. Ivanka is a renowned expert and author on the subject, and so I sort of picked up grains on that. And then we also interviewed Olu Sabanjo, who does like online sort of video training for people doing YouTube and live streaming and things like that, and we just had such a lovely conversation with her, and I just really enjoyed that chat. So there's 3 episodes have dropped, and so if you want to go and have a listen to that, canyousseemyscreenpodcast.com. Where can people find you on the internet otherwise, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter is the best place. And yes, come and say hi.
And you can find me at, yes, you can find me at Michael Forrest on Twitter. I'm relatively active as my entrepreneurial persona. But I'm sort of generally talking about all the different things that are going on up there. And squares.tv as well. Come and see that. That's where I'm putting all my energy. So, thanks for listening again, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Oh.